Hello, my name is Eric Normand, and I'm going to be speaking at LambdUp in Prague this December. I'm very excited. My talk is called The Theory of Functional Programming. A little bit about myself. I'm from New Orleans in the United States, and I run a site called purelyfunctional.tv where I teach Clojure and functional programming. And I also have a blog called Lispcast, where I do my more personal blogging about opinions on technology and programming and such. And I was asked to do a little interview for my upcoming talk. And there are three questions. First question: what about functional programming do you like the most? Well, I like that functional programming is a solution to a huge swath of problems. I find that modeling in a functional way matches the problem sometimes better than other ways. Sometimes it's not better, but a lot of times it is. I also like that it's a little fringe. It's not the most popular thing. And I always like to differentiate myself to be a little bit different from other people so that I can have a little edge in certain cases. I'd rather have an advantage by finding a really sharp tool that no one else is using than to try to compete on what the tool everyone else has. That's just the way I like to roll. I also like that it's cutting edge. There's a lot of research. There's not a lot of established best practices around it. Like people are still discovering the best ways to build large applications with it, even though it's been around a long time. It's got very deep foundations in mathematics, into the early history of computing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's trendy, but it's not just trendy. It's getting popular, but it's not popular just because everyone is talking about it. There's something deep in it that I find very fascinating and useful. Okay, next question. How can knowledge of functional programming help developers who are not working in functional languages? That's a really good question because I don't think we're all going to just switch over tomorrow into functional languages, even if it would be better to be in that language in general. So even when it might be beneficial, it's not going to happen. And I think that functional programming has always pushed out ideas into the wider community. For instance, garbage collection came out of the functional world. It was Lisp programmers who developed all of that. All right, so I think functional programming is, at its essence, and this is what my talk is about, it's about a different way to approach problems. And if object-oriented programming breaks things down into objects and messages, those are the two main things that it talks about. Then functional programming, you could say, breaks things down into actions, data, and calculations. And it's a different way to see the problem. It's a different way to carve up what's going on and how you're going to break things down. And that could provide a new perspective on the problem, regardless of the language you're using. You could be using an object-oriented language and you decide to say, wait a minute, before we write all these objects and messages, let's look at where the data, the actions, and the calculations are. And I'm going to talk more about this in my presentation, but I think that is the main benefit that functional programming gives, is just a different perspective to get you out of the local maximum that you might be in, to just see things from a different angle and have a new way to approach a problem. Okay, so what will my talk bring to the audience? Another good question. All right, so a few things. I think my talk, which is called A Theory of Functional Programming, so it's trying to lay a foundation to define functional programming because there aren't any good definitions I've looked. Okay, so what I think it will give is a deeper insight into what we are doing when we're doing functional programming. So I'm not defining it in terms of features like it has a type system or it has lexical closures or any little feature like that. It's a much deeper understanding of 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 the paradigm. Okay, so better understanding. Also, a way to communicate those things with other people. So instead of talking about the features or having kind of ambiguously defined terms, if we had better terms that are understood between functional programmers and outside of the community of functional programmers, object-oriented programmers, imperative programmers, if they could understand these terms, then we could discuss more and bridge those gaps and explain our solutions in those ways. All right, I hope that by having that understanding, it will help you do functional programming better. It'll help you convince other people to try functional programming. Right, I want to also bridge the divide between the different styles of functional programming. I feel like there's a big rift between the static typing world and the dynamic typing world. We rarely can communicate, and just having an underlying basis for talking about what we do and how we do it in the different languages would really help that. There's also divides about whether you need immutable data, mutable data. Those aren't so big, but we need to be able to talk about those things across those divides. So we need common vocabulary, common understanding of our goals and intentions and things. So those are the three questions. I hope that you come see my talk. I hope you go to LambdUp. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I haven't been to Prague in 16 years. I did some backpacking around Europe 16 years ago, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope I have enough warm clothes because it doesn't get that cold here, and it looks like it might snow. But if you're going, let me know, and we can meet up, hang out while I'm there, and I think it'll be a great time. Check out purelyfunctional.tv and check out LambdUp if you haven't already bought a ticket. It's a one-day thing. Just pop into Prague, catch a flight there, and stay for the day, catch a flight home. Should be pretty fun. All right, thank you so much. See you in Prague.